What if I told you that the most sophisticated and powerful tool in the known universe is sitting right inside your own head? And what if I told you that this very same tool, the one that allows you to compose symphonies, design skyscrapers, and ponder the very nature of reality, is also the architect of your most private and persistent suffering? It's a strange paradox, isn't it? That our ability to think, our very consciousness, can so often feel less like a gift and more like a cage. We've all been there. Lying in bed, the ceiling a blank canvas for our racing thoughts. It's 3 in the morning and we're replaying a conversation from yesterday, a week ago, a decade ago, analyzing every word, every pause, every subtle shift in tone. Or maybe we're staring into the future, building elaborate, terrifying scenarios about a meeting tomorrow, a health scare, or a relationship conflict. We call this overthinking. It feels like we're on a mission to solve a problem, to get to the bottom of something important. But what if we're not solving anything at all? What if we're just getting incredibly good at building a maze, with ourselves trapped right in the center? Today, we're not going to talk about how to stop overthinking. You won't find a 5-step plan or a magic trick here. Because to simply try and stop a thought is like trying to hold back the ocean with your bare hands. Instead, we're going to do something much more powerful. We're going to get to know it. We're going to sit with it, understand its language, and explore the deep, fascinating, and very human psychology behind why our brilliant minds so often get stuck on a loop. This is a journey into the mechanics of your own mind to understand the ghost in the machine. So, let's begin, not by fighting our thoughts, but by understanding where they come from. First, we need to draw a line in the sand. There's a world of difference between thoughtful reflection and the destructive cycle of overthinking. Reflection is productive. It's when you look back on an argument to understand the other person's perspective, or to see how you could have handled it better. Reflection has an end point. It leads to insight, learning, and growth. It's like reviewing the game tape to become a better player. Overthinking, on the other hand, is a hamster wheel. It feels like work. It expends a massive amount of energy, but it takes you nowhere. In psychology, this backward-looking loop has a specific name: rumination. The word itself comes from the Latin for how a cow chews its cud, regurgitating the same food over and over again. And that's precisely what our minds are doing. We're not digesting the experience to gain nourishment. We're just chewing on it endlessly. Imagine a man named Leo. Leo is a graphic designer, and he just finished a presentation for a major client. During the Q&A, he misspoke slightly. He meant to say synergy, but he stumbled and said sympathy. He corrected himself immediately. Everyone smiled politely, and the meeting moved on. No one else in that room remembers it 5 minutes later. But for Leo, this tiny moment becomes the seed of an obsession. That evening, he's not celebrating the 99% of the presentation that went perfectly. He's ruminating on that one word. The thought starts simply: I can't believe I said sympathy. That was so unprofessional. But rumination doesn't stay simple. It feeds on itself. The thought expands. They must think I'm an idiot. The lead client, Sarah, she didn't smile as much after that. She probably lost confidence in me. What if she tells my boss? My boss already thinks I'm not detail-oriented. This could be the final straw. I might get overlooked for that promotion. You see the spiral. It starts with a concrete, real event, but quickly morphs into a web of assumptions, fears, and catastrophic predictions. Leo isn't solving a problem. He is creating a feeling of dread and anxiety, and then living inside of it. He is chewing on the same tasteless cud, and the longer he chews, the more bitter it becomes. This is the past-focused side of overthinking. But there's another, equally powerful twin, future-focused worry, where rumination replays the past. Worry pre-plays the future, casting us as the lead in a horror film of our own making. Let's think of Maya. Maya has a first date on Friday. It's just coffee with someone she met through a friend. A low-stakes, simple event, but her mind doesn't see it that way. Her overthinking brain treats this coffee date like a high-stakes diplomatic negotiation. On Monday, the worrying begins. What should I wear? What if I wear something too formal or too casual? He'll think I'm trying too hard or not trying at all. By Wednesday, it's a full-blown mental catastrophe. What if we have nothing to talk about? What if I spill my coffee? I'm so clumsy. What if he asks about my last relationship and I say something weird? What if he thinks I'm boring? What if I think he's boring and I can't figure out how to leave politely? It's going to be so awkward. Maybe I should just cancel. It's easier to cancel. Maya, just like Leo, is engaging in a thought process that feels productive. She feels like she's preparing for all possible outcomes, trying to control the situation, but she isn't. She is simply generating anxiety. She is taking a future possibility and treating it with the emotional intensity of a present reality. She's experiencing the emotional pain of 100 different bad dates before. She's even ordered her latte. So whether it's ruminating on the past or worrying about the future, the core mechanism is the same. The mind gets locked in a non-productive, self-perpetuating loop. It's not a character flaw. It's not a sign of weakness. It is a patterned, almost habitual way that our brain can behave. The real question is, why? Why are our brains, these marvels of evolution, so prone to getting stuck in these painful cycles? The answer, as it often is, begins deep in our evolutionary past. Imagine being one of our early human ancestors on the African savanna. Your survival depends on your ability to predict and avoid threats. The person who hears a rustle in the grass and thinks, "Oh, it's probably just the wind," might get eaten. The person who hears that same rustle and thinks, "What if it's a lion? What if it's circling around? What if it's waiting for me to be alone?" That person is more likely to be cautious, to run, to survive, and to pass on their genes. Our brains are descended from the warriors, the overthinkers, the ones who ran a constant, low-grade what-if analysis on the world around them. This anxiety and tendency to ruminate on potential dangers wasn't a bug. It was a feature. It was a life-saving survival mechanism. The problem is, we are now running this ancient survival software in a modern world. The software hasn't changed, but the inputs have. Our brain doesn't know the difference between the threat of a lion in the grass and the threat of an unliked Instagram post or a vague email from our boss. The threat detection system, our amygdala, lights up all the same. And our prefrontal cortex, the highly evolved CEO of our brain, gets the message, threat detected. Run simulations. Find a solution. Avoid the danger. The prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain right behind your forehead. It's the seat of our most complex cognitive behaviors: planning, decision-making, moderating social behavior. And so, it's the part of the brain that lets us think about the future and reflect on the past. In short, it's the part of the brain that does the overthinking. When it's working well, it helps us make wise, long-term decisions. But when it gets caught in an anxiety loop, it goes into overdrive. It becomes a relentless problem-solving machine without an off switch, desperately trying to solve problems that may not even exist, or that have no immediate solution. It's like having the world's most powerful supercomputer and tasking it with figuring out why a friend used a period instead of an exclamation mark in a text message. The computer will use all its immense power to analyze the problem, generating millions of possibilities, most of them negative, because its primary directive, inherited from our ancestors, is to look for the lion in the grass. To make matters worse, our supercomputer brain is prone to certain predictable glitches, or what psychologists call cognitive distortions. These are not signs of a broken mind. They are common, almost universal, patterns of thinking that skew our perception of reality, like looking in a funhouse mirror. And they are the fuel for overthinking. One of the most common is catastrophizing. This is the tendency to take one small negative event and blow it up into a life-altering disaster. It's Leo's brain taking "I misspoke" and turning it into "I'm going to be fired and my life is over." The mind creates a domino effect of disaster from a single, tiny tile. It's a cognitive distortion because it ignores all the other, much more likely, outcomes, like the fact that no one even noticed or cared. Then there's This is the confident assumption that we know what someone else is thinking, and it's almost always negative. Maya, worrying about her date, wasn't just concerned about her own actions. She was convinced she knew how her date would perceive those actions. He'll think I'm boring. He'll think I'm trying too hard. She acts as if she has a psychic ability to access his internal monologue. And in her version of his thoughts, he's always a harsh critic. This distortion turns every social interaction into a high-stakes judgment day. Another powerful distortion is personalization. This is the belief that everything others do or say is some kind of direct, personal reaction to us. If a colleague is quiet in a meeting, our overthinking mind doesn't default to maybe they had a bad morning or maybe they're just tired. It defaults to they must be angry with me for what I said yesterday. We place ourselves at the center of a social universe where we are the cause of everyone else's behavior. It's a subtle form of ego, but one that creates immense anxiety. These distortions, catastrophizing, mind reading, personalization, and many others are the building blocks of rumination and worry. They are the faulty logic that our mind uses to build its case for why we should be anxious and afraid. Recognizing them is not about blaming ourselves for having them. It's about starting to see the code behind the program. It's the first step toward realizing that the story our overthinking mind is telling us is just that, a story, and it might not be a true one. This brings us to perhaps the most important part of this journey, the nature of the story itself. All of our overthinking, all of our rumination and worry takes place within the theater of our own mind. It's part of our internal narrative. You have a voice in your head. I have a voice in my head. This inner monologue is a constant companion, narrating our lives, commenting, judging, and analyzing. It's the storyteller of our personal experience. When we are caught in a cycle of overthinking, we have become lost in the story. We've forgotten that we are the author and have instead become a passive, terrified audience member. The story our overthinking mind tells is often a poorly written one. It's repetitive, the plot is always circular, and the protagonist always either in imminent danger or deeply flawed. It's a thriller with no resolution or a tragedy with no catharsis. The profound shift, the real path through the jungle of overthinking, comes from a capacity known as metacognition. It's a simple word for a profound idea. Thinking about your thinking. It is the ability to step back from the stage and move into the audience. It's the power to observe your thoughts without becoming entangled in them. It's the moment you're lying in bed, your mind racing about that embarrassing thing you said, and a new thought arises. Wow, my mind is really caught in a loop of rumination right now. That moment of recognition is everything. In that moment, you are no longer just the thought. You have created a space between yourself and your mental chatter. You are not the storm. You are the sky watching the storm clouds pass. The clouds are still there. They might still be dark and turbulent, but you are no longer identified with them. You are the vast, stable awareness in which the thoughts are occurring. This is not easy, because overthinking gives us a powerful illusion, the illusion of control. We believe, on some deep, subconscious level, that by thinking about a problem from every conceivable angle, we can somehow prevent a bad outcome. If we worry enough about a presentation, it will go well. If we ruminate enough on a past mistake, we can somehow retroactively fix it or ensure we never make one again. But this is a fallacy. Life is, by its very nature, uncertain. We cannot think our way out of the fundamental uncertainty of being human. No amount of worry can guarantee a perfect future, and no amount of rumination can change the unchangeable past. All it does is make us suffer in the present moment. The overthinking mind is essentially allergic to uncertainty, and it tries to create a fortress of plans and analyzes to protect itself. But all it builds is a prison of anxiety. So, where does this leave us? We've journeyed through the mechanics of rumination and worry. We've explored the ancient evolutionary roots of our anxious minds. We've unmasked the cognitive distortions that act as fuel, and we've touched on the power of and the story we tell ourselves. We haven't learned a trick to shut it all down, and that was by design, because the goal was never to declare war on our own minds. The way through is not through force, but through awareness. It's not about stopping your thoughts, which is impossible, but about changing your relationship to them. It's about learning to recognize the hamster wheel when you're on it. It's about being able to gently say to yourself, there's catastrophizing again, or I see my mind is doing that mind-reading thing. You don't have to fight it. You don't have to believe it. You just have to notice it. This awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. You don't have to fight the darkness. You just introduce light, and the darkness ceases to be. The simple, compassionate, non-judgmental observation of your own thought patterns is that light. Overthinking is a deeply human experience. It arises from the same parts of us that allow for love, creativity, and profound insight. It comes from a brain that is hardwired to protect us and to make sense of the world. The suffering comes when this incredible tool is misused, when it gets stuck on the wrong problems in the wrong way. The journey out of the maze of overthinking isn't a race. It's a slow, gentle process of getting to know the architect of that. As your own mind. It's about understanding its history, its habits, and its language. The architect of our anxiety, once understood, can also become the architect of our own understanding. And perhaps the greatest freedom we can ever achieve is not the freedom from thinking, but the freedom to choose which thoughts we listen to and which stories we decide to believe. The choice isn't in stopping the thinking, but in what you do when you notice it has begun.